What is going on, everyone, and welcome to the Aspect Podcast Network, the home of the Valyrian Voice. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below to be the first to listen to our weekly reactions and other shows from the Aspect, including X-Men, Star Wars, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and more. What is going on, everyone, and welcome to the Valyrian Voice here on the Aspect Network. I'm one of your hosts, Alex Batts, and joining me every week to discuss the latest and greatest in the world of Westeros is Hamed Alazzamy. Hamed, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Still trying to adjust to the fact that we're on camera now, but other than that, I'm doing okay.
Yeah, no, new stuff. Very fun though. Looking forward to it.
Well, let's kick off this week's show by just diving into our overall thoughts and reactions. Alex, what did you think of this week's episode?
Um, I thought it was fine. It was an episode. It reminded me a lot of episode 3 in the sense that this is one of the few episodes of either House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones where I'm like checking my phone in the middle of it and checking the time in the middle of scenes because I'm just kind of
Exactly.
like, okay, I mean, yeah, I get what's happening and I understand why we're being shown this, but at the same time, can we sort of get a move on a little bit?
Mhm.
Um, Not to get too much into it yet, because we'll dive into the episode in more detail in our next segment. But literally, one of the things that I thought was going to happen in this episode, they set up at the as the final scene in this episode. I'm like, man, we're really like moving at a snail's pace here right now, which I know in one of our past episodes I talked about how much the show expands on things in the book, where something in the book will be 2 or 3 pages or 5 pages, and that can be an entire episode or more, depending on how they tackle it in the show. And when I had made that comparison originally, it was in a very positive light, and that it was very impressive how they were able to translate the book and then also put new material and flesh it out in a way that was really beneficial for the show format. And now I think they're doing that in a way that's not necessarily the best. Like, it was just fine. It feels like we're kind of taking a minute to have stuff happen now. Not that I need to see constant action, right? But at the same time, the pacing of this episode was just really weird and meandering. And again, just reminded me of episode 3, where I wasn't super engaged with the episode as a whole. And it's weird too because I think, and I felt this way mostly for episode 3 also, where the scenes by themselves are good scenes. The exchanges that we get are good. All of the actors, of course, are phenomenal. But then as a whole, while I'm actually sitting there watching the entire episode and the experience, it's just kind of fine. It just is there. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I guess those are my initial impressions or thoughts of the episode. What did you think of episode 5?
it was just okay. I'm not even gonna lie. I think this was maybe my least favorite episode this season. Maybe. I
I
know
think this
that
is
you're
probably my
comparing
least
it to.
favorite
Yeah.
episode of this series, maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
It felt so slow, and at the very least with episode 3, I felt like there was at least, some developments there. Like we saw things that we liked. There are things that we enjoy talking about. I know we went into detail a bunch of times about a few things that happened in episode 3, but still though, this episode just felt so long
it
and
felt
a little
so
bit of
long.
it just felt so long. A little bit of personal info for those of you who don't know. Um I'm not in the same time zone as Alex. I'm not in
To
the
say the
same time
least.
zone as pretty much anywhere as the Western Hemisphere. I watch these episodes at 4 a.m. and most of the time I'm just usually just up. Like I stay up to watch these. And I'm telling you, midway through the episode, I had to wake up and go back a couple minutes and see where I was at because it just felt everything was dragging. Everything was dragging. I couldn't. I do not like the I do not like some of the decisions that they're making with especially with Damon. I don't like it feels off. It feels very off. It kind of feels like very flip floppy. Some episodes it feels like the showrunners are doing well, even if it's not action packed. And then there
Mhm.
are episodes like this where it's like, are we sure this is the same person writing these same episodes, or is there someone ghostwriting? What's the deal here?
Yeah. It's it's weird too because I think that technically they're still really great. Like, this is still one of the best looking shows out there, right? And
I will not disagree with that.
the actual, like, directorship of the episodes is still good, but it's just yeah, it feels weird and sort of sluggish, and I think I said already meandering, and, like, it just is going it's going back and forth between these characters and locations in a way that's not unusual at all for Thrones, but it feels so not disinterested, but just and not even unimportant either. Like, there's some big things that happen here. Obviously, we get more follow-up on, like, Aegon, and we get Corlys being, like, having being courted to be Rhaenyra's new hand, and, Jace going off and doing treaties on his own. And so, like, big things happen and important things happen for the rest of the war and what will be coming, but it's, yeah, it's real slow going right now, which is
It
not
does.
the most optimal. And this is even still I do wonder how people who haven't read the book at all feel about it too. I haven't really, like, looked at any responses or anything so far, but, because I was reading Fire and Blood earlier today, actually, and I've been reading it more, and, like, I'm well past this point now in the
Mhm.
book and, like, later on into the war, and so it's exciting knowing the things that we're going to get to, and I think that's maybe part of the reason where I'm like, "Oh, can we, like, move along?"
Move it
'Cause,
along.
I'm
Yeah,
reading
I get
yeah,
that.
I'm reading all these things, but I still, like, I don't know, it felt very unusually, uninteresting for most of the episode,
Mm.
and just kind of like, "Okay, I get it," for the most part. I will say one of the things that I really loved was, before we dive too deep into things, was the longer shot of Alicent at the council meeting when it is focusing squarely on her, and the sound kind of goes out almost, and you just get, like, the left side and the right side and, like, barely hearing it. I thought that was really great. Um, I thought she was good this episode again, but yeah, just as overall thoughts, this fifth episode was fine. It happened. It established some things, I guess, that needed to be, but meh. But started to talk about more in-depth stuff, so I guess whenever we come back, we will be going deeper into the episode and talking about some of our favorite moments and some of the things that maybe didn't work as well for us. So we'll be right back. Hey, Aspect listener, my name is Alex.
And I'm Kate, enjoying this show on the Aspect Network.
Then check out Bending the Narrative.
We are your one-stop shop for everything in the world of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Each week, we go back and discuss your favorite episodes of the series with a particular focus on the characters and narrative threads that tie the series together.
In addition to discussing the original series, we also dive into other stories in the world of Avatar, like Legend of Korra, the live-action Netflix series, the books, the comics, and more.
Join us as we travel the globe with Team Avatar and discuss one of the greatest animated series of all time on Bending the Narrative here on the Aspect Network.
Now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the Valyrian Voice. Before the break, we discussed our overall thoughts on episode 5, but now we wanted to dive deeper into some of the best moments from the episode and, kind of get our thoughts into that. So, Hamed, what were some of your favorite moments from this episode?
Not a lot, honestly.
Bro
I
said my
mean, I'm
list is
gonna be
empty.
honest. It could be empty, honestly. I could talk about the episode though. You
Oh, I hope
mentioned
so.
in the first segment that you were well past this point in Fire and Blood.
Mhm.
I haven't reached this point in Fire and Blood yet, but I do have to ask. Damon in the book, this isn't it written in a way that Damon essentially is not struggling with the Witch of Harrenhal. Like he resists like whatever magic and stuff that
It's
she's
left
trying to attempt.
it's left ambiguous about that, but it also because there's the multiple accounts that the book consistently like references, and so it's left ambiguous enough. It is definitely implied that he's not necessarily struggling as much as he is in the show, but also it is heavily implied that he does have a relationship with her still. So it's not entirely inaccurate, but it's I do think that it's the plot as it's happening in the show is already starting to feel like okay, we've seen it like a couple times now. And I like the way that they edit those sequences together and the him like consciously, I guess, like feeling like he's teleporting or transporting to different moments and places and things. I think that that
Mm.
works very effectively, but it also still feels like, oh well, I'm just watching a vision that's like whatever for a couple minutes now, and it's not gonna have any like.
It's not even about the vision itself. I don't think you should be struggling this much. I don't. I get he's very headstrong, and I get he's very proud,
Mhm,
and he seems like the perfect character to kind of go through this subplot. But at the same time, like I get it. We've seen so much of it so far. Like there's been no attempts like at him learning whatever it is that this witch is trying to teach him or whatever she's trying to do with this, all these illusions or all these visions or whatever it is that he's going through. Like I get it. Where is the end game for this? He's
yeah,
here to rebuild Harrenhal. He's here to build up an army. And this episode we saw a very tiny glimpse of that even happening, but the River Lords were telling him that, we are not joining you. So what is he really doing over there? Is he
yeah,
rebuilding the castle? No. Is he gathering an army? No. I know he's not there. I know he's not there just to go through this life changing experience. That there's still a mission. There's still something that he has to do there.
mhm,
And I just feel like that's been really moving slowly. And I it's cool. Okay, we touched on this last episode when we were talking about we love how that the show is kind of deeming into the supernatural slash magical aspects.
mhm,
Um, but at the same time, too much of a good thing is not a good thing.
yeah, yeah.
That's one thing.
I think that it's part of the point of it definitely is to show that he doesn't really know what he's doing and is kind of inept at that, and he just I mean, they do kind of make joke the characters in the show make jokes about it that he like not directly to him, but on Rhaenyra's council talking about how he flew off after a marital spat, and it's like, yeah, I mean that's essentially what happened. Like he got mad and said, okay, I'm gonna go do something, and capturing Harrenhal feels like a doing something, even though like practically it doesn't really because the castle's in ruin and there's no army there for him, right? Like he doesn't actually have anything. Like, good for you. You set up shop in an abandoned castle. Like that doesn't help anyone, right? And it's him having to realize that. And I think that that's good for the character, and I think that that works, and I think it's an interesting place to find him in. But also to your point, though, that begins to play out very slowly the longer that we like keep in the same hemisphere, and then it's not helped when the rest of the show also feels like it's moving that slowly, like
Right.
the scene with not Bela, but I'm blanking on her name, her younger sister. um is it Raina?
Rhaena.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is
Raina.
Rhaena.
Raina in the veil, that scene, boring. It's just I know it is important and it's showing, the veil and what are what's their last name? I forget the house. The lady that she's talking
Galarian.
to. No, the
Oh,
the mother.
Aaron,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Aaron, Lady Aaron is it was fine. I I just
I thought it was pointless only because like there's so much tension between them, and then for her just to randomly say like, oh, okay, well, these are gonna be your chambers. Like, okay, then why were you being so dramatic for?
right.
For
Yeah,
what
it's
reason?
just it it's like I don't know, and I get because there's so many different characters and players in this, and they need screen time in order for us to care about them at all. And so I get it. At the same time, though, the story is moving so slow right now, and
It is. It is.
we
And
don't need that.
honestly, we both talked about this about how some episodes felt like a Game of Thrones episode where we touched on a lot of characters and got everyone got a little bit of screen time and for the most part we liked that, but this episode it tried to do that and it didn't work. Like
Yeah,
in Westeros, the House of Aaron never really mattered in the first place. Like in
yeah,
Game of Thrones, the most we got out of House Aaron was, you know, genuinely in the first 2, 3 episodes when John Aaron was handed the king and he was, poisoned or dead or whatever it was. And then the
mhm,
only plot that we got after that was Lysa Aaron, with her little, crazy son Robin and her little plot with Peter Baelish when she was thrown through the moon
the moon
door.
door. Yeah,
That was good because it was minor, and this is still
yeah,
minor in itself too. But still, like, stop trying to push these insignificant houses onto us. It's just not gonna work. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I'm here to watch Targaryens. I'm here to watch Valyrians. I'm here to watch these houses that we don't get much play with in Game of Thrones. You know
yeah. It
the
also
other houses, they got plenty of coverage. They got the screen time that they wanted in other series. It's just not working in this one. You know.
yeah. I thought it was so funny whenever the Brackens and Blackwoods, or I guess see, that's the thing. I don't know if it was like 2 from each that were the main people talking or if it was all one house, but whenever they're complaining to Damon and just how much he's not prepared for actually ruling in any meaningful manner,
Mhm.
like trying to settle a dispute or solve something or like figure anything out. He just does not, cannot deal with it and cannot comprehend. Of course, he's hindered at this point by, as we were talking about, visions and stuff. But yeah, just showing the
It
way that
wouldn't have been
the
much of a difference, if he
yeah.
if he wasn't going through this.
Oh, there was one thing that I just remembered. There was a very small. So again, we're also this is another weird subplot that I know is going to pay off. I can't remember if this character is exactly who I think they end up being, but the like commoner that we are following around King's Landing, the one that was like a blacksmith or whatever, him and his wife and daughter. We get
Oh
scenes
yeah.
yeah, we get scenes of them again this episode, and they mentioned something that I thought was really interesting, and it was like seeds being planted. Um, she says that they should go to Templeton, and I don't know if you remember what happens at Templeton later on. If you do not, I'm not going to mention it now because it's a
Okay.
big thing. But like it's a real big deal, honestly. And I just read the part of with what happens there like earlier today, so it was very fresh
Do
in my
you?
mind.
I mean, we'll talk about it between
Yeah.
segments, but like, do you think it like adds up?
Well, I mean, I think it just I think for this was meant to lay the seeds of like familiarizing the audience with that place as a location that exists. And so that way, whenever it shows back up later, we can be like, oh, yeah, that one dude, or not the dude, but his wife had mentioned like Templeton. I don't think it's like a really big, like, it's not a huge, like important thing happening right now as for like how it's brought up now. But it was just one of those things where like it got mentioned and I'm very now was on alert and I'm like, oh, well, that's going to be a big
I
deal.
mean,
We're like
after
at
this
least
episode, I'll.
I mean, we're at least like a season or 2 from Templeton happening, so don't worry, it's gonna be a while.
Okay,
Um,
now I'm really curious, honestly.
Yeah, it's later in the dance. But so I did think that that was interesting. I'm wondering what the payoff with this guy is going to be though, because we're obviously devoting screen time to him for a reason. Like, so there's got to be something there, which will be interesting, I guess. I did
Right.
really like the first like 10ish minutes of this episode. That was
Hmm.
mostly just visual storytelling. I thought that was really good. Like Corliss at the beginning, Morning Rainice, obviously, and then um them them being Kristen Cole and Allison's brother. I'm forgetting his name. Returning from
Um, Sir Gawain. Sir Gawain.
yeah, that sounds right. Quain Hightower. Yeah. Them returning to King's Landing and trumpeting the Melis, the dragon's head through the city, which is big mistake because
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
they I like Cole's commentary not understand or his like line where he's like, "Don't they understand that we won?" And it's like, dude, you don't understand that you're parading a dragon's head through the streets. Like these are more now everyone's seeing that a dragon can be killed. Like not that people didn't know that because like that's happened before, obviously, but like to show them in such a visceral way that like the entire symbol of the Targaryen power is like
I just thought
and
that was so self-defeating, honestly.
oh yeah,
Like
which I mean is the entire point.
Targaryens.
Like, but
They're
it hurt.
Targaryens. Regardless of who's ruling, they're all Targaryens.
Yeah, just a
What's
big
what's the
mistake.
point of taking their symbol, the house sigil, and parading one of their dead members around? It just makes no sense. And I'm really glad that the commoners, the people that were watching Melis's head get paraded around, I was so glad that they played it off as if like as in they're not happy, like
Yeah,
they're not cheering. I
yeah,
thought that was great. That was a great move. That was a great,
yeah. I think
sequence. Um, because yeah, like you said, yes, okay, everyone's aware that dragons can be killed, but also people are now starting to realize that this war or this, spat between families is just not gonna go away easily. It's
mhm.
it's dragons are dying, you know,
Yeah,
and people could just be like, these dragons are supposed to protect the realm. We're supposed to be a unified, kingdom. Because if we have any enemies, coming in from other lands, bravos, whatever you want to call it, um, these dragons should be available. But they're too busy fighting each other. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
and as we all know, we're essentially just watching the fall of House Targaryen. They're
Which hurts,
never
dude.
gonna recover from this.
Why am I a fan of this show? They're literally my favorite house, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch the show where they all kill each other and destroy their lineage. Like,
Exactly, bro. It makes no sense. It makes no sense, honestly.
that's
It's
terrible.
just it's just it's sad, but at the same time, I'm watching, week in, week out. I'm just genuinely waiting for the House of Fall Targaryen, which, I agree with you. They are my favorite house. They've been my favorite house since Game of Thrones.
Yeah, but they're
It's
just destroying
it's
each other.
it is
I
it's
hate,
it's
I hate
crazy
to
to
see
think
it.
about, honestly.
No, I do agree with you though. I think that the way that they did the reaction from the commoners and also the other characters in the show, like understanding how much of a bad omen that was and how also just dumb it was to do and is, going to be a sign of things to come. And we said it last week, there's only going to be more dragons dying. Like it just gets worse from here. Like it's far from the last, which is rough stuff. Um but yeah, so I thought that those like first 10 minutes were great. Them pulling Aegon into the Red Keep and first starting to like mend him. I thought that sequence was awesome. Also,
Hmm.
fantastic job
Taking
by
the
like
armor off him
yeah,
and
dude.
seeing
I
that
wish
blood splat, I like that. That was
I
good.
love I really loved that they like incorporated the detail because one of the details that is like specifically described in the book is that because of the burns, his armor like burned and like melted into
It
his skin
eroded into
some.
his body. Yeah,
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 and like actually like seeing that, I was like, oh hell yeah, that is awesome.
yeah.
um,
That was nice.
so mad props to the both the makeup and the VFX team who I'm sure worked in conjunction on that. But yeah, that was very, very cool. Also just great acting, I think, from Allison that whole time.
It
The
was.
her both her and Amond this first like 20 minutes I thought were really, really great. The way that both of them carry themselves and react to the battle and what it cost them. And then the I did like the scene where they're deciding on a regent, and they're like, someone has to rule in
Like, everyone knew
Aegon's.
at that point, you know what I mean? Like, the
Yeah,
second
and
that
it's
that
like
question was thrown out, I'm like, "Okay, let's move it along here. We all know who it's gonna be."
yeah, I do like it though, showcasing how awkward it is because everyone's like, well, it's Aemond, obviously, and Allison is arguing against it, and everyone at the table is just sitting there, heads hung low, trying to not be the
Because no one
one.
wants to say it, no one
Yeah.
wants to. Because Allison made it a lot worse for herself, she really did. Like, "Oh, I was there, during, King Viserys's, illness, and I was Queen Dowager, or I was Queen Regent. I
Hmm.
definitely do that again." I'm like, "Okay, we get it." But at the same time, that he was known for peace. He was known for just being very diplomatic. So, like, when
Yeah.
she took over for him during his illness, um, there was not much to do, but
The
this is
realm was
this is
not
a crucial
undergoing
time.
a civil war.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Um,
Aemond is clearly the better choice. The guy reads, the guy knows his history, the guy is, like they say on the show, he definitely has no restraint. That guy has a temper, and that temper usually leads to ridiculous mistakes.
I really love how much they have played into the ambiguity of whether or not Aemond did that being unleashing the rolling ball of fire, uh,
I
with
think I
the
think Cole knows.
I'm really, I mean, Cole obviously like knows what happened, but I really like even in Aemon's performance how the ambiguity of whether or not he did that solely so that he could become regent is what
Right.
happened, and I like that they're maintaining that. His performance, I'm blanking on the actor's name again. Um,
Oh, I have no idea. I'm not gonna lie
it's
to you,
been
but he's been great.
Yeah, he's been awesome, and I think that
He's awesome.
like writing in that line has been really great to see, and I think works very well for the character. And it even continues in through with one of I think my favorite scenes of the episode when he is just standing in front of the throne, shot so well, but him just standing there and staring at it, and then Helena off to the side, we see her for a second, and her asking if the price was worth it. And I love that we don't get a response from him. We cut away before we see anything. And I really like that they're maintaining that and continuing to um, just lean into that. I think that it works well.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so that was a strong point. I also do like the parallel that they draw between Alicent and Rhaenyra and them both not really having any control over the councils that they're a part of. It's this war that's
Just straight sexism, honestly.
yeah,
Straight
it just
misogyny.
like it just goes right back to the root of what a lot of season 1 was about, and the fact that in this world
They'll
they
never
will
have. They'll
they'll do
never
anything
accept
but
a queen.
yeah, they'll do
Essentially.
anything but listen to a woman, essentially. Like
Exactly.
they'll literally I mean Rainey said it in like the second or third episode of the first season when she's talking to Rhaenyra that like the realm would rather tear itself apart than seat a woman on the Iron
And
Throne.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah,
and
I mean,
they're sticking hard to that point.
yeah, it just showed continuously, and I not that I like seeing that happen. I like the fact that they are able to draw the same parallel between these two people that, by all accounts, should have had the most power, like in the kingdom of Rhaenyra, and then Alicent, who was, as you were even just saying a minute ago, Queen Regent for years,
Mhm.
being completely sidelined and having absolutely no say or control in the events that follow. And it's their families tearing each other apart. Like they're the ones that are losing sons and
And they're
family members.
losing, patience because the councilman. Like, even for me, like, obviously it's clear to anyone, it's clear as day that it's misogyny, essentially.
Hmm.
But For me as a person, the guy on Rhaenyra's council, I think his name is
Oh,
Sir
dude.
Alfred or just
Yeah,
Alfred.
I don't remember. Annoying dude is his name.
Oh my god, he's just nonstop.
Yeah, he's
He's
ridiculous.
nonstop. Like, and it's literally just for no reason. That guy just literally interrupts
It's
just
just
to
to be
interrupt.
yeah, it's just to be antagonistic and combative, and
And
I
it is annoying. Like, at the very least with Allison's, people who interrupt or essentially don't share her opinion, they at least bring opinions
something
like of their
interesting.
own.
Yeah,
Like, and they,
all
they
of the
bring
Green Council members
reasons.
are competent and interesting to listen to. Like Laris, as much as that dude sucks, he's interesting. Cole, really well-rounded character. Hate him, but great character. Um,
He's good at
the
what he
main
does.
Yeah, the Maester is really interesting also too. Like he's a minor character that brings a lot. The dude on Rhaenyra's council though is just there to be annoying. I
Like,
don't.
she just says anything, and this guy's like, "Well, don't forget that you're a woman." Essentially,
Yeah, dude, pretty much. Yeah,
that's
that's
basically how it goes.
that's all it is. I'm like, bro, can this guy not for 2 seconds, please? Can we not listen to him? Um, yeah. While I'm remembering it, I did. It's so annoying. These last 2 episodes, I did like Cole in this episode, which sucks.
Oh, he was
I
okay.
hate to
He was
I hate
okay.
to say
Yeah.
that, but he did have some good lines when he's talking with Allison, and he's like, "Is this not? Did we not spare you?" He's like, "What we have to do now is awful." He's like, "The things that I saw just then, I'm not okay." Like
He's like,
we.
yeah. He's like, I saw people burn to ash, and you're talking to me about like what?
Yeah, he's like, "This is the dragons are at war now. This is not good." I do really like that him going through that has fundamentally shaken him to his core. I think that's good character stuff. And yeah, just the fact that he's like, we've now spared you from having to deal with what we have to do for this, which is ironic because they don't have to do any of it. It's just boys being like, well, I need to keep fighting because we've been fighting, that kind of stuff. But I think that for him, that's a very solid justification for being in what one could argue like betraying Allison, depending on how you want to read their relationship and how it's been up to this point. I'm sure she definitely feels betrayed.
Betraying her, maybe in a romantic sense, but not
Yeah.
in a professional work relationship
Well, yeah,
sense.
because I mean he's the hand, so he technically like sort of outranks her now
Yeah, it's not
in a
that. It's
way.
just they have disagreements, but at the same time, like they still have that common, that mutual respect. But knowing what they do together outside of work hours, you would think that he
Would side
would
with her.
back her up more.
I'm
Yeah,
sure that's definitely how she feels. She's like, dude, are you serious right now? Like,
yeah, and
uh,
I don't get how they could make up outside of work. I don't see that happening.
no, but yeah, I liked him. I thought that he was pretty solid in this episode, but it that was good. Damon's stuff is weird and weirdly placed. Like the scene when we cut back to him and he's just like cutting the wood to like help. Also, it doesn't help that I know Harrenhal doesn't. This doesn't. They don't rebuild Harrenhal. Like That's not what happens. You know. Why are we? Why y'all have scaffolding up right now? Just stop. That's not what this is
Yeah,
for.
bro, like you have open holes in the skin. Like this is just a lost cause. Like what are we really doing here?
Like y'all don't have that. This would straight. If you actually want to try to rebuild this is like 15 or 20 years. What are you doing? Like you don't
Yeah,
have.
and
You have
like
a
we're
war to
talking
fight.
a full crew. Like what do you want one Targaryen to do with some wood?
It's the most they needed him to be doing an action for this scene. That the scene also. I don't even remember what they talk about in this scene. I know Damon's like talking about, oh, I don't want people to think that I wasn't willing to get my hands dirty and like work and stuff. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure, but like, what is this scene doing? And the answer is nothing.
And honestly, that was kind of stupid. We're talking about a
What?
guy that took care of the triarchy. Like we've seen him get his hands dirty in the first couple episodes by
Yeah.
by taking care of the triarchy. And genuinely, metaphorically, figuratively, whatever you want to call it, he gets his hands dirty by waving a white flag and then deciding to not surrender.
Yeah.
And suddenly, because this guy grabbed an axe and chopped, a piece of wood, I'm supposed to believe that he's a hardworking guy. Like, I know he's a hardworking guy. It, it makes no sense.
Yeah, it was just weird. I don't fully understand. And then oh, we got Jace treating with the it wasn't the Tullys because they didn't meet, or was it not the phrase that didn't meet them and they did treat with the Tullys? I can't
Yeah,
remember. I think they treated with the Tullys and did not meet with the phrase. But anyway, they went to treat with them about the crossing at the Trident, I believe, is what that would have to be. And yeah, that scene was also fine. I liked that the table was a door. I thought that was pretty cool, which you could see in the final shot of that.
right. Yeah.
But I mean, it's nice seeing Jace do stuff, and it makes sense that he's very impatient and wants to actually act and do more to try to help their cause in the war, and him going and making a smart strategic decision and move was good. And again, it's like with most of the scenes in this episode, it makes sense, it's necessary for details in the war, but it just structurally and the way it's executed feels so meh. I was like, okay. I mean, this conversation was about the same. Well, it's because I think the thing is, you can only do so many of the we have to go and treat with these people to try to get them on our side and like in a generic way before it gets kind of boring. And we've seen that a lot now this episode of people trying to do that. I mean, we literally had Damon doing that also on the back of Caraxes to the Brackens, I believe, are the ones that were not on their side. I think the Blackwoods already were, and him, threatening them. The one shot though of Caraxes getting low behind that dude after he had turned his back on him,
I thought that was it for
phenomenal,
them.
phenomenal. It's same, and then they lived. Okay,
I'm like,
that I
oh,
thought that was
like,
kind
oh,
of
I didn't,
that was
didn't
bad
like that.
editing actually. I will say, like, to
Yeah.
cut from that and then like learning that they lived, and like that was definitely a they died 2 seconds later type cut, but okay. Um, but like so it's seeing this like we have to go and treat with these people. Like we also, I mean, the season opened with that, right? The season opened with Jace going to treat with Torin Stark, I believe is his name. I might be getting his
Kragan.
first name right. Kragan, is
Kragan.
it Kragan right now?
I'm pretty sure it's Kragan.
Okay, with Kragan Stark, yeah, it does sound right. Um, but like the season opened with that, and there's only that type of interaction can only get you so far as it being entertaining, and you really have to have interesting characters and like an interesting back and forth every time to make that happen and to make that work. And sometimes it just misses. And like Jace going to treat with the Tullys or whatever, I don't care about them. It's like you were saying earlier. I don't care about the Tullys, dude. Like
Yeah, I don't
they're
care about a House Arian or a House Tully. You know what I mean? That's good for
like
you, man.
I
Like, we'll
know
see you
that
guys
they.
later.
I'm sure we're gonna get the House Tully and House Aaron stands in our comments. The like three of them that exist, but like, dude, it's I don't I don't care about them.
Make better
I'm not.
choices, dude.
Right. There's this whole fictional world of all these different houses, and you choose them. Come on, but it's fine. It's serviceable for the story. I like seeing his dragon, whose name I'm blanking on at the moment now, actually, but.
That would make two of us.
Yeah, seeing I should definitely know this. I was reading it earlier. Seeing this dragon was cool, and that's nice, I guess, about that. But like that was fine. I like seeing him and Bela interact more. That's always good, and I do like how much they're using him because I think, and I'll talk about this more in our next segment. But I think that I now have a guess for where the season's going to end, and he's a big
Okay.
player in that. So I do like the screen time that he's getting. I also think that actor is great. He's doing a great job. But yeah, that scene was just fine. It was kind of boring also. It's like we got that. Yeah, we had two scenes of people like having to treat. Was there a third one? Am I forgetting one, or did we just get two?
No, I think it was just the two.
Yeah, and the scene with Corlys, Valerian, and um, Bela was also good. and I think did a lot for both of their characters. But again, is one of
I
those
think they
things
should
that
interact more, honestly.
yeah,
The
they
entire show, it kind of feels like they should.
yeah, that like that scene was really really good. I liked that one a
It
lot,
was.
and
It's
the
not
way
even
that
just
she
that because the way that Rhaenys was talking about, like, this is who we have to live for now, and even Corlys at one point, he was about, like, I'm my pursuit of the throne has ended. I'm just here to live and have a
Mhm.
good time and spend time with my grandchildren, only for them to literally not have any scenes together. It made no
Yeah,
sense. For seeing them talk, this episode and interact, that was great. I liked it. You know,
yeah,
it's a really nice dynamic there.
I think so. I think they also balance each other nicely in what they bring emotionally and like for the other character to the table. And that was really like shown very well here with her, the way that she's able to talk to him about Rhaenys' death and how that's affecting both of them and how like she's able to be, I love instances where the younger person is able to be like, hey, like get your shit together, kind of like in a nice way, and like you go but like, hey, like, yeah, I understand, like this sucks, but like you can't just like sit here and wallow in it, right? You need to do something still. And like she wouldn't have wanted you
Right.
to do to just sit here and do nothing. So like, come on, get to it. And yeah, that whole interaction was really good. I also like that she gives him essentially like the pep talk and whatnot, and by the end it's very clear that he's gonna like be the hand. And as she's leaving, I like him being so convinced and so impressed with her like monologue and pep talk to him that he's like, oh, you should be the heir actually. And I like her being like, no, like I'm of blood and fire, and the Driftmark throne should pass to uh salt and sea. Is that what she says?
Salt and
Some-
smoke, I think.
Salt and smoke, yeah. And like it was a good line. I like that. um
Yeah, no, it was good. It was great. I like that too.
but yeah, so
It
their
just like
interaction
I
was
said, it
solid.
just it just plays into, like I said, the dynamic between her and Corlys, which is
Yeah,
I would like to see more of.
I think House Valerian is so interesting, honestly. Of I overlook them a lot because they're the Valyrian, like the
Too.
families of old Valyria. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
they're one of them, but they don't have dragons. So it's like, oh, well, you don't have dragons, though, right?
yeah.
And so they get
But at
overlooked a
the
lot.
same time, their connection um, with the sea is unparalleled. You know,
Yeah,
they make the Greyjoys look like fishermen.
right. Yeah, I think that's what makes them so interesting, and especially given that contrast with the Targaryens. Um, it's good stuff. George
Yeah,
R. R. Martin knew
fire
what he was
and
doing.
essentially water. Yeah,
Yeah. Dude had some good ideas, I guess. But yeah,
for
so
sure.
that house is pretty interesting. I do like Lady Massaria. I like that she's getting a lot of play
Oh,
in
I
this.
like that too. She's
I like
she's
her.
getting great screen time and she uses it well.
Yeah, and I think that she's definitely by far Rhaenyra's smartest counselor,
Hmm.
even though she's not even officially like on
Officially in
her
the council,
council.
but and she's the only one willing to listen. That's a
She's the only
very low
one.
bar to be the best council woman.
She's the only one willing to listen, and she's also the only one that has any actual advice. All of the other people
Mhm.
are just like, "We need to do something." She's like, "Well, you
Yeah.
can do this, and I'll give you a couple of options," um, which is good, I think. But yeah, that's most of the episode. They set up the I'll talk about it now. The thing that I thought that we were gonna get, and I'm blanking on the exact name that they call it in Fire and
Mhm.
Blood, but it's an event where they're searching for more dragon riders on Dragonstone
Mhm.
by going through like all the bastards essentially of house that have been birthed from House Targaryen. And I
Yeah, pretty
thought
much people that fell out of House Targaryen.
yeah, and I thought that that was going to happen in this episode. Like before this episode aired, I was like thinking about the events that I knew, were probably going to happen for the rest of the season. And it's like, oh, well, what would make sense to happen after the Battle of Rook's Rest? I was like, oh, well, they'll probably do. I keep on wanting to call it the Silver Sowing, but I feel like that's not accurate. Um, but I was like, oh, it would make sense for them to do that in this episode because I know that needs to get done, and that'd be a pretty big thing. And the fact that the last scene of this episode was just them just setting that, like, hinting at that and planting the idea for that, and so the fact that that'll be next episode, I was honestly so annoyed. Like, we absolutely should have gotten that in this episode to move us along a little bit further. Like, there's no
I mean, I agree. I'm not
because
gonna lie to you.
because now like it'll happen next episode, but it'll probably be a pretty big chunk of next episode because it's like a pretty big deal, and that's why I was really hoping that we were gonna get through it in this episode, and that there would have been more things that happened that felt impactful in this one, and especially even from just the trailer thing that we saw. I don't know if you watched the trailer for next week's episode.
I try not to, honestly, but I don't watch it immediately after the episode. But
Mhm.
from week to week, I just can't stay away. So I just end up watching it.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna like they very much are like spotlighting the fact that they're gonna be trying to get random people, well, not random people, but searching for new dragon riders, and that's gonna be a very big chunk of like I would imagine, honestly, I'm gonna bet now the entirety of Team Black, their scenes, except for Damon, of course, because we'll get his hauntings in Harrenhal. Except for Damon, all of Team Black's scenes are probably going to be them trying to find the new Dragon Riders, which is like it makes sense, but that's an entire other episode. And then after that, we only have 2 episodes left in the season, which is wild. But
Not great, honestly.
yeah, for I think I have a pretty strong idea of where they're going to end up with the season, though. At this point,
I mean, hey, that's for another segment.
yeah, that
All
is
right.
true.
When we come back, we're gonna discuss what we think is gonna happen. What's next for the season so far. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Alex. Enjoying the show on the Aspect Network? Then you should check out my show, Philosophy of X. Each week, I pair an X Men character, story, or concept with a relevant philosophical topic and explore how the two relate to one another. Join me on my journey to examine the world of X Men through philosophy. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the Valyrian Voice. We talked a lot about this episode so far, but we're unfortunately heading towards the end of season 2.
Yeah.
Alex, where do you think the episode goes from here with only 3 episodes left? I know you said that next episode is mostly going to be Team Black finding their next Dragon Rider, but there's still
Mhm.
2 episodes after that. So where do you think that season's going to end off essentially?
Yeah, so I think yeah, I'm gonna stay to that prediction that for Team Black, they'll be spending the entire next episode trying to find more Dragon Riders. They will, spoiler alert, get more Dragon Riders, and that'll happen. I have
Fair.
to assume. I'm praying that happens by the end of the episode. It has to. Um, there's no way they can split that up over 2 episodes. You wouldn't think.
I
But
feel
so
like it's a
that'll
big process.
it's definitely a big process. That's why I think it's going to take the entirety of their portion of the episode, sans Damon and Harrenhal.
Right.
Because I'm sure we're going to get more of that. Which like there's not, dude. That part is so confusing to me because there's not. He does not do that much for a while, and so they're gonna keep spotlighting him because it's Matt Smith, obviously. And like I love Matt
Mhm.
Smith, he's fantastic as Damon, but also they're just straight up isn't like they're doing more with him in this than he does in the book because like in the book he's just at Harrenhal for a little bit and like not really doing anything.
Mhm.
And so we get that, but then yeah, so we'll get some more scenes with him. I'm sure we'll get Team Black doing the Dragon Riders, getting more Dragon Riders. They'll have to have gotten all of them by the end of next episode. I think then next episode is 6. Episode 7 will deal with the gullet being blockaded and
Mhm.
reaction to that. And
Which we saw a little bit of during this episode when everyone's trying to leave.
yeah, so well that's King's Landing specifically being barred.
Oh, you're talking about the gullets blockade? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm talking about the like essentially the bay between Dragonstone and King's Landing.
Right.
Um, so that because since Rhaenys is now out of commission, there's no one really
No one's
patrolling
watching that
there.
blockade. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think the episode 7 deals with that, and episode 8 is the Battle of the Gullet. I think that's my guess, and I say that, but then at the same time, Thrones has a long history of of doing the big battle things as the penultimate
In the
episode of the
semifinale,
season.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
they
semifinale.
lo-
Yeah.
they love doing that. So that could,
We
in
essentially
theory,
have.
happen in season 7. Like you could do
But would you feel like it would be rushed if we spend? Because if we go based on your prediction, we're going to see a lot of Team Black next episode again.
Mhm.
And them trying to find a new Dragon Rider, and then maybe near the end of the episode they talk about, they gear up towards the Battle of the Gullet, and then episode 7 would be the battle itself. Would you feel like in that scenario, would you feel like it would be rushed?
I don't think so because I think you don't need that much. So I think the way that you do it is next episode for Team Green, we see them preparing to put the blockade and things like that in place. And
Okay.
then by episode 7, the beginning of that episode, because the battle wouldn't be the whole episode
Right.
unless they go crazy with it, which would be wild. But so if we're saying the battle is even if it's half or if it's even like 2/3 of the episode, I think you can do the beginning of the episode being the fact that that's a problem and like that being established and Team Black having to react to that and then going into the battle. And then for the season finale, you have the immediate aftermath of that battle and deal with that as like that's how the season is ending and where we're going from here. Um, but and I think that there's a lot of things that they gotta play with in that in between. I'm not sure exactly. I can't remember. Kind of fuzzy on the specifics of what exactly Team Green is doing between now and the Battle of the Gullet in Fire and Blood. So I'm not.
You would know more than me, honestly.
Yeah, it's been like a week since I read that part, and it's slipping my mind at the moment. Because again, and like I was saying earlier, the book is a lot more condensed than the events in the show are. Like, there's a lot of things that happen in a couple pages as far as actual like time span and events and things like that. But yeah, so I think that I want to say the Battle of the Gauntlet would be the finale, but also it would make sense if we're following Throne's tendencies for that to be
Right.
episode 7. And I think that you could do that and it could work, and then you get the aftermath with the season finale.
I mean, that would make sense, but
And
I feel like
I'm
it would
trying to
be rushed a little bit.
to think about what exactly the like stinger at the end of the season would actually be as far as how it wraps up, because there's still, even if it's because if you're not ending on a big battle or something, there's still going to be, you need your season ending moment, right? And so I'm trying to imagine and think about what that would possibly be, because we do have the other like one of the other major things that's not going to happen until like the end of season 3 or 4 probably. But yeah, that's my guess, I think, about for where the rest of the season is going with the
Okay.
couple of episodes that we have left. It's wild that we only have 3 episodes left, right?
It is. It's only been a month.
Yeah.
It's only been a month. Oh, technically 5 weeks now. You're right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
5 weeks. 5 weeks. And they just flew by.
It's gone by so fast.
It is.
There
It is.
I'm glad that
And
I
it
think
sucks that
that
we're
there's
gonna have to wait so long for new content. It really does.
that's what I was thinking. I think they're supposed to start filming season 3 at the end of this year though, which would be good.
Already confirmed, right? I'm pretty sure it's already
Yeah, they
confirmed.
can they confirm season 3 before season 2 started airing, which was nice.
It's great.
I do think at this point it'll be, I think 4 seasons would be good.
I think so. Yeah. I remember I don't remember what it was, but I'm pretty sure it was an interview with the showrunner, and it was around the time where they were talking about, yeah, we're essentially aiming for 4 seasons. I feel like that's good. That's a sweet length. That's the only word that comes to mind. It's a sweet length. It's
Yeah,
enough for
it
you to get your point across without making it feel like you're milking the show, essentially.
especially if they do season it. I think 4 seasons would be great because it would make season 3 and 4 really packed with stuff.
Mhm.
Because there's a lot still for them to get through and cover, and it also especially depends on where exactly they wanna um, end with things,
Right.
but I think that with the pace that things are going, even with it being a little elongated here in this weird beginning part of the war, I think that just 2 more seasons would still be a very solid length for them to wrap this up in.
I mean, it would make sense.
Yeah. Did you have any more thoughts for where you think things are going by the end?
Honestly, I feel like I shared most of, or yeah, most of my thoughts, as you were discussing yours. Um, I nothing specific comes to mind, I guess. It's just, it's hard for me to really go on what I think is going to happen, for the end of the season after an episode like this, because I feel like
Yeah.
there's still a lot to go through, but at the same time, you don't want to rush yourself. You don't want to make sure it feels too fast paced. I can't. I have speculation, obviously, but still, like I said, I feel like you and I pretty much covered it for the most part as we were discussing it together. You know.
Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. Um, well, okay. I think that that'll just about wrap it up for this episode then. Those are pretty much all of my thoughts. It was overall an episode. um, but yeah, thank you everyone for tuning in to this episode of the Valyrian Voice. Hamed, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Instagram and X/Twitter. I am at Hamtastic. 2 C's at the end.
Awesome, awesome. And you can find me online at AP Batman with 2 T's. And also, please be sure to subscribe here to The Aspect on YouTube and any platform where podcasts can be found. Be sure to follow us on Twitter/X, Instagram, and TikTok at The Aspect Co. Special thank you to Peter Fraser for providing our series music. And again, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you beyond the wall.